Welcome to Trophy Kids presented by Bad News Media. It is September 30th. We are back for the college football show. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing well. What about you, Nate?
Oh, not too bad. We've got the fall chill has now turned into actual cold chill in Cincinnati, which is nice. I mean, the city's abuzz. We got a nice whiteout game today, like we're Penn State, College Station here in Cincinnati.
Okay.
We got a decent slate of college football games, not too bad. This past weekend, not the best weekend of college football in recent memory, but
No.
some decent games sprinkled in there from time to time.
Yeah, not the best for me and the fans of the green and white. But I guess we can look at it now. The season is over, so there's no expectations now.
That it is.
Yeah.
Tuck is not coming this season. Maybe next season, but not this season.
Yeah,
to say the
not
least.
this season, and I'm cool. And we're still getting good recruits, so that's always
the
a good
key.
sign.
Yep. Messaging is key.
So-
Getting the pipeline going is key.
Exactly. Got to keep this propaganda machine rolling.
Absolutely. I will say this weekend was good because I kept it completely sober, looked at as many football games as I possibly could. Sober mind, we got to get back into it because the gambling, it hasn't been the best. I'll own that to the fans. I have not been the best in that aspect, but we got a lot of football games under our belt. We got a lot of research under our belt this past weekend, and we had some good and some bad. There were some picks out there that we gave out, but we didn't necessarily take ourselves on our cards. Like Penn State, we called that from a mile away.
Yeah. I don't know who put that line down for the over and under, but I knew Penn State was going to I think at one point they were losing.
Yeah. Oh, it was a tight game to say the least, and we did the same thing with Northwestern too.
They pulled away at the end.
Yeah,
Penn State pulled away at the end. I told everyone Northwestern though that to have Northwestern favored in that game was silly. And I hope someone did make a little money off of that.
Absolutely. We both were like, this line stinks to high heaven. Northwestern should never be favored over a team. And I think that brings us to a good point and a good starting point because I texted you almost immediately into this game on Saturday, the Maryland-Michigan game. I was like, this bet's lost. I said it to you almost immediately, like, oh, Michigan's losing this bet. Like, I took Michigan purely off the fact that I didn't trust Maryland. And man, did Maryland show me wrong because I think I texted you within the first minute of that game. I was like, I just lost that bet.
That defense, and we kind of talked about it here that we didn't know if Michigan's defense was as good as it was.
Yes.
Now we know for a fact that it is not.
They got some work to do, and I think this is they're
soft in the middle.
Yeah, soft in the middle, and this is a good point to bring up too when we talk about these teams because we're going to talk about Michigan here. We're going to talk about Alabama. I talk about from the perspective of how the market is viewing them, how the public is perceiving them. It's not to necessarily say they're a bad football team, but when we talk about them, we're talking about what the market's deeming them from a spread perspective, where they're evaluated from a perspective in that sense, and that was the concern with Michigan. I mean, I think you can take away two things from that Michigan game, and I think that brings us to the Michigan-Iowa game, which is probably one of the first games we'll talk about here, the noon slot. That's a 10.5 point line right now. Michigan is favored over under 41.5. You know, Michigan came into that Maryland game 17-point dog, and 17-point favorite. And there were concerns defensively, and I think those concerns were exposed. Now, that's not to say that they don't have time to clean it up, because they certainly can clean up some things. I think positives offensively, they looked pretty good. I had some concerns about their physicality. I had concerns about how JJ would step up, but I think it's, we talked about how it sucks that Cade got injured, but it's great from the starting perspective because now JJ gets all the reps in practice. He's going to get a lot of game experience, and they have a team that doesn't look like they're going to turn over the ball. They're playing well within the system. The offense looks very capable. Defensively, though, is where our questions lied. And I think our questions are still there, and this is the problem with playing a weak schedule to start off the bat, is you don't really know what you have, and you play a Maryland team that could stretch you like an Ohio State's going to do later in the year. They're your best benchmark and measuring stick for that. And there are growths. There's a lot of things on film that Michigan can go back and say, okay, this is where we need to improve. Middle of the field, soft defense there. Defensive line, I'd like to see some of those defensive linemen memorize to memory some moves that they can just commit without even thinking about it because the pressure it wasn't consistent. I didn't like to see the push I was seeing up front. So there are things to work on here, but this is a great measuring stick for here's where we are and here's where we need to be when we play Ohio State later in the year. And they can improve, but the concerns were valid for losing 8 guys. It's tough to replace 8 guys in a season.
Yeah, they allowed way too many rushing yards from now. Tagovailoa was playing lights out, but he was able to get some of that stuff done because the rushing game was there for Maryland. Now, not to flip back to Michigan State, but we don't know. He did get injured halfway through the second half of that game, so we don't know if he'll be playing this week. But that's kind of when Michigan saw their chance. They smelled blood in the water, right? And they saw their chance to pull away. If I truly believe if Talia is his name, right?
Yeah.
If he doesn't get yeah, baby too. If he doesn't get hurt, I truly believe Maryland may have walked out of there with a win.
They could have. I don't know if they necessarily get the win, but they're definitely there, and they played them very close, which was the concern was, can Maryland step up in class? Because the last couple of years we've talked about them. I've taken the bait that this is a very good team, but whenever they step up in class, comparative to their level in the market, they get beat down. But they put up a very good fight, and I think that was the thing that they were 3 for 3 on fourth down conversions.
Yeah,
fourth down conversions.
They were getting. I can't believe they couldn't stop those third down conversions. And even at those 2 fourth down conversions, Michigan was lost.
Yeah, and they averaged 5.4 yards per play. So it was a good showing for them. And this was the measuring stick for Michigan. Now, like I said, I definitely think there's room to grow here, and there are ways to advance. But if this is that was the first real test, it's the offense that you're probably going to play that can closely threaten you like Ohio State's going to do. Because if we're being honest, Michigan's expectations are playoffs and to beat Ohio State. Right now, that does not look feasible. But
also, Michigan has a target on their back, and I hope that they notice. All my Michigan fans out there, take it from a Spartan fan in basketball. When Michigan State has a lofty number and we become a target for everybody, and they play their best basketball they've ever played, Michigan is about to see the Big Ten's best football game from every opponent that they play.
Yeah. And like I said, offensively, I don't have a lot of concerns right now. I think that is on schedule. I think that, once again, having a true number one starter right now who's going to get all the reps in practice, that has a good balance on the run and pass side, doesn't seem to be a guy right now initially that's going to turn over the ball a ton. I'm not as concerned about that. The defense is the concern. They are getting a team, though, this week in Iowa that they're going to be able to get right against. They're going to be able to start to implement some things. They got a lot of good things on film. I think that's the best part of that Maryland game. One, you got the win. That's the most important thing. Sure, you didn't cover the number. Sure, you didn't win me money, but you got the win.
You got the win.
You got a lot of things on tape to learn from and to adjust defensively and to better prepare, because you don't have to match. We talk about this with the Ohio State. You're not going to be able to beat them one-on-one man. But if you do play a bend, don't break style of defense and you can manufacture pressure, then that game becomes much more realistic. It's a long season. Good standpoint, I think, to start off. And in this game against Iowa, I very much like Michigan. Iowa's offense,
I don't think Iowa
is going to put up
points.
Nothing. Yeah, as long as you don't turn over the ball here, Michigan, I'm betting them. They're on my card this week, 10.5. I am taking them. I'm rolling with them. I feel very confident about this. And this is a spot for that defense to start building some character. Let's start to see if this defensive line can progress week to week. They got their first challenge against that Maryland offensive line. Let's see what they can do against this Iowa offensive line. Can they start to manufacture some pressure just naturally? Can these defensive linemen get a better push? I want to see week to week growth out of this team, but I like them in this spot. 10.5. I love Michigan here. They are on my card this week.
I hope that everybody is ready for some Big Ten football on this Michigan-Iowa game, because there will not be a lot of points scored here.
Oh, yeah. The under could be a bet there.
Could be. I don't know. 42 is still scary.
It's low, but I just have no faith in Iowa. Zero offensively.
Yeah. I would be surprised. If Iowa scored 2 touchdowns, I would count that as a win for Iowa.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they put up 14.
If they can put up 14, that's a huge win for them. But this, like I said, this is a flop for Michigan.
14 offense, just offense.
Yes.
If they put up 14, like you said, 2 turnovers, that doesn't count.
Yes, yeah. It's a good week for the Big Ten. There's some good teams out there. Minnesota, too. We talked about them last week, a team that's flying under the radar. There are so many teams that I had flying under the radar that are now not. This is the challenge with betting football, because teams eventually come up and they start to lose value. Like that Minnesota-Purdue line, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. It's 12.5. I don't love that line anymore, but Minnesota's a team flying under the radar. They play good team defense, a cohesive unit defensively, and then offensively, they have a great running game, and they have a quarterback in Morgan who he doesn't go out there and throw the ball 30 times. But when you do call him to throw the ball, he makes the right read, he makes the right decision with the ball right now. He looks good. This team is flying well under the radar, and I think is very capable of winning the Big Ten West this year.
Yeah, my only caution against Minnesota is they played a very weak Spartan team last week, and the numbers may be a little inflated when they go against better competition. That better competition is not in Indiana against Purdue, though. So I think everything that you just said is valid. Just I would temper or tempt some expectations as we go forward.
That's why I'm not betting that number. That number to me reads a little inflated. They could well cover it. I just don't see value in betting that number right now, because that's a number that speaks to me that, people are starting to realize Minnesota's a good football team, and this is and they're starting to get a little bit more public money, and I don't like the 12.5 number. Now, let's talk about a big matchup, a key matchup. Number 7 Kentucky playing Ole Miss. They are the underdogs here. It's 6.5 is the line. Over-under's 53.5. We have spoken about this team a couple of times. I have concerns about this game and this team in Kentucky. What is your initial read off the bat? And then I'll kind of go in it from there.
I know Ole Miss is there's no way Kentucky wins this game, is my read.
It's gonna be very tough. I have a lot of concerns for this Kentucky team. I think the biggest positive right now for them is they are getting back their bell cow running back in Chris Rodriguez. I think it's his last name. That offensive line is bad right now. It's been pushed around by lesser competition. It is in a rough spot. But getting Chris back is huge, because he does average 4.1 yards after first contact, which is a great statistic here. This is a low-scoring affair. Kentucky is one of the lowest teams in pace this season, too, which the concern mostly comes from their ability, if Ole Miss, which that offense has not looked great.
No.
It's looked disconnected at times. The defense for Ole Miss has been the one carrying them so far. But right now, Kentucky is bottom 5 in pace, so plays per minute. They're ranked 127th right now. They are going to need to rely on the run, because Ole Miss's defense plays a 3-2-6 defense, so they're much more prepared for the pass. So this could be a sluggish, slow-paced game. The total could be a spot to look at here. You'll want to check weather and kind of see where that's at. But yeah, this is concerning for Kentucky, mostly because I just don't know what that offensive line is going to present, because it has not looked good. And they don't have a guy, Wan'Dale Robinson's not there this year. They don't have that kind of big play. All right, we need to rip off a chunk. Slay is really good. He's a local kid, but they don't have that big kind of play ability right now, and I have a lot of concerns about Kentucky. I don't like the number at 6.5 for Ole Miss here, because they haven't looked great, but this is a tough spot for Kentucky.
Yeah, I think it's really tough for Kentucky too if Ole Miss goes out there and puts up 2 touchdowns on you early, because Ole Miss likes to score early. Like you said, Kentucky is going to try to make Ole Miss play that slow game. But if Ole Miss decides not to, I think Kentucky will find themselves like buried too deep. I mean, Ole Miss is one of the few teams putting up 38, 39 plus points, right? And with that said, can Kentucky's defense hold them down to like 30, so that Kentucky then can turn around and score 30? But then that's not giving credit to Ole Miss's defense, which is, like you just said, like a stout defense. And if the running game doesn't develop for Kentucky and you got to go through the air, that's exactly what Ole Miss wants you to do.
Yeah, and there is some, and it's something that you have to factor in to your kind of handicapping here. There is the idea that maybe Ole Miss has been holding some things back because, I mean, it's not hard to look at the schedule. There wasn't a ton up front for them competition-wise. That offense may have not been implementing a full playbooks worth, saving some things for this Kentucky game, knowing that this is coming down the road, knowing that you're going to get this game at home. Dart could come out of his shell a little bit more and really put on a performance. He's certainly capable of that. We haven't really seen that to this point from him, at least from my perspective. So this game makes me nervous for Kentucky, and it solely relies on that offensive line. Luckily, they're not playing a defense in Mississippi that is great at creating organic pressure. And the run game should hopefully be pretty effective here. That is why the under at 53.5 may be something to look at. I'm going to stay away from this game entirely, but it was worth a game highlighting on the schedule. A game
like you said, Ole Miss is not trying to create pressure. They want you to throw them the ball.
Yeah, they are much more. That's why they run. They're built to protect against the pass, which has been becoming more and more lethal in the SEC as they move away more and more from that stingy run game that we were accustomed and grew up to in the SEC. Now, a game that should provide some fireworks as well, as long as weather is permitting. Wake Forest versus Florida State. It is a 3:00 game. The line is set at 6.5. Wake Forest is the underdog here. This is another team in Florida State that's been sneaking under the radar, that has been playing very good football very quietly so far this year. Over under 64.5. This game, the weather is what's really kind of pending here. Otherwise, this over could be a lot of fun. What are you kind of feeling on this one? How do you kind of see this game breaking down?
This is the team chaos game of the week, right? Yeah. This is where no matter what we say here, something is going to happen that neither one of us can predict, that your Vegas won't be able to predict. Something is going to look at that Clemson game. Look at that Liberty game. Look at the games Wake Forest has played where, everything, very fluky games, right? And then Florida State played that game against Louisville, and it was similar, right? Similar style, and that game against LSU. So I don't know. I really can't break this game down other than it should be, like you said, weather permitting, should be very entertaining.
Yeah, I think the weather will be one to look out for. By then, it should have passed, but there could be some after effects, some rain that come into play here. Jordan Travis for FSU, my goodness, I apologize, folks, has been sneakily very good. He's been playing some high-quality football, and then you got Sam Hartman on the other side. Sam Hartman throws one of the best balls I have seen in college when he has a wide receiver one-on-one with a quarterback. His ball placement is absolutely fantastic, and we saw that in the Clemson game where they were really able to take advantage of a kind of weakened secondary, which Clemson will get some of those guys back this week. But he was really able to take advantage of some of that one-on-one cover and just place the ball in just perfect situations. I really enjoy watching Sam Hartman play. I was a little surprised that this line came out at 6.5. Now, we know Wake Forest's defensive inabilities, but Florida State is not the healthiest team defensively either. Two of their premier defensive linemen are on injury watch right now. There'll be game time decisions. This is a game that could provide a lot of entertainment, could be a lot of fun weather permitting. But Florida State, one of those other teams similar to Minnesota where people are sort of sleeping on them. Now they're starting to pay attention because they put together a couple of really good games recently. This is a team that, the wheels are starting to turn there. If they can squeak out this one here, this Florida State team, the recruiting gets a little bit easier. You start to be able to sell a message a little bit better if you're Mike Norvell. Florida State's coming around. They're playing some good football, and Jordan Travis is having himself a day down there at Florida State.
Well, we'll see. I don't know who to pick it now. 23, 22. I think the line's at 6 or 7, depending on where you're at. I think you should sit down on the couch and enjoy that game.
Yeah, well, I may or may not have a player. We're going to wait to put that on the card for Saturday. We'll have a couple picks here at the end of the podcast, but the full card will be coming out just because I'll be keeping things a little close due to weather. Let's talk about your Michigan State Spartans in Maryland, a game that presents some interesting points of view. The line 7.5. Maryland is the favorite here, over under 59.5. Do you think
Yep.
after watching what you saw Maryland do to Michigan, Baby Tua is injured here. He's coming into the game, but it does look like he is going to play. Just a little banged up, though. Do you think the Sparties can put up a fight here against this Maryland team, who is looking better than advertised so far through this season?
Do I think that they can? The answer to that question is absolutely. The better question is, will they? And that's where I don't know. I think there's a couple things happening here with Michigan State. One, the injuries are abysmal, and I don't know if we need a new strength and conditioning coach. I don't know if we need some better nutrition. I don't know what we need, but every game you're seeing just massive injuries, both to the O line and the D line. Now, the D line injuries are you can kind of excuse them because they're playing the whole damn game. So, yeah, of course you're going to get a couple injuries. The other thing I think that's happening with Michigan State is you had these expectations coming in at the beginning of the year. Now, we all knew we didn't know what the defense would be, but we assumed that the offense would make up for some of the defense's shortcomings, and that's not happened. So now where does the mind game come in for the Michigan State players? Have they given up on the season? If the fans have given up on the season, it's really easy for the team to give up for the season. I still think that there is an offensive spark that Peyton Thorne can still do something. I think it is up to Thorne, Coleman, and Reed to turn this thing around. And can they do it against Maryland? Absolutely. Will they do it against Maryland? Probably not.
I guess that answers my question because I was about to follow that up and say, do you think it might be Noah Kim time? Do you think it might be let's give the backup a little shot? Because it seems when he gets implemented into games, there is a little bit of a spark to that offense. He does seem to push the ball a little bit more down the field.
If you lose against Maryland in College Park, I think you go ahead and bench Peyton.
That's fair.
I also think there's enough on tape for Peyton that it's not going to hurt his NFL prospects if there are any.
I would say he doesn't have any as of right now.
Yeah,
maybe I don't know what his eligibility looks like. He might be able to put himself in the transfer portal. Re-elect his career.
But I think if you lose against Maryland because you don't have anything to lose, and you can get Kim real in-game reps.
Yeah, in the times he's come in, I've seen it's a very small sample size, but it does appear that when he is injected into games, there is a little bit more of a spark because it does appear that he is a little bit more adept to just pushing the ball down the field a little bit more. He's willing to take a little bit of a deeper shot. And so that is a very small sample size. The times he's gotten into the game, it's garbage time generally. So,
and that O-line is just it's
tough.
It's as porous as the D-line. So,
yes.
Also, Michigan State's inability for the last 5 years, so even before Mel Tucker, for the last 5 years, not to stop passes between 5 and 9 yards, I cannot. It makes me pull my hair out. It is almost as bad as running the jet sweep all the time when we were running. What is it that you can? If a pass is between 5 and 9 yards, I know that Michigan State is going to leave somebody wide open.
Yeah, and it's a problem. We talked about it at the very beginning of the season that Mel Tucker made it his personal assignment to help try to coach up the secondary and to try to get a little bit of push in this offense. This could be a really bad spot because we see, especially in the Michigan game, and I would say that Michigan defense is better than Michigan State's. Yeah. That Maryland was able to kind of push the ball on them. They were able to find the open holes in the zone. They are very capable. They are a very capable offense and strong from that matter. So, yeah, I would agree that this could be a pretty ugly spot potentially.
Yeah. Also, with playing Maryland and the not being able to stop that short to mid pass is that this is clearly a talent issue at this point. I don't even as much as I want to blame Scotty, and I want to blame him. I think Michigan State has to go to the transfer portal. We're supposedly getting great recruits in. We gotta the core that's in there now. I love them to death. They're Spartans just like I'm a Spartan, but your talent level to play Big Ten ball is just not there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Let's talk about another game on the 3:30 slot. Has just got some very good games. I mean, you got Oklahoma State, Baylor, but the big CBS game, Alabama, Arkansas. The line is 17.5, which is large here. Over under 60.5. I am staying away from this game from a betting perspective because I do not see value at where the spread is at right now. But do you believe Arkansas has enough to stay in this game with Alabama?
Absolutely, I do. This I think, and I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna come back and bite me. I think this game is gonna be a lot close. I think this is gonna be similar to the Texas game.
I like your optimism. I'm struggling to find that optimism because the circumstances are a little different compared to last year. I like KJ Jefferson. I think the ability for him to create an extra man advantage in the box with his ability to run the ball and be physical, as well as his ability to throw the ball, is a great advantage here for Arkansas. My biggest problem is I don't know. Last year they had Burks at wide receiver who had a monster game in this game. And I just don't know if they have the surrounding pieces around him to be able to expose and win the one-on-one matchups against Alabama's defense. Yeah. But with that being said, you could flip that side of the ball, and I think Texas was a little bit more equipped in the secondary to deal with Alabama's wide receivers because they could one-on-one them. We have talked about how Alabama, I do not have them as the second-best team in this country right now. I have them as third in the country, and it's a lot to do with the fact that this wide receiver room is suspect. I don't know if you could tell me there's one guy here that's stepped up to this point. They struggle to get separation. They struggle when you have good talent on the outside that can man them up. Bryce Young is an absolute monster, so if you allow them to, if you play kind of sit back defense, the bend don't break zone, he will pick you apart
all day.
All day. But if you can manufacture some pressure and man up these wide receivers, we've shown they are lacking this year, and that is a real weak spot. Now, the season is long, and they can get a lot better. We know Alabama teams can, but at this point in the season, that is a concern. I just don't know if Arkansas has the pieces. I hope they do. I hope they go more your route. I am just nervous. It's why I'm staying off this because I don't have a read spread-wise. I'm just nervous that Arkansas maybe doesn't have the pieces this year to put up a fight fully from a team effort. But this is a hard-nosed football team, and they play hard. Yeah. It's at home. It's going to be a fun game to watch.
I am giving them an advantage for being at home. And this is by no means, again, don't take what I say as any sort of sports expert, but this is in no means saying that Arkansas will win. I don't think that there is a reality in which Arkansas wins this game. I don't think Arkansas has won this game in like a decade or so. So I don't think that's going to change on Saturday. I think my biggest concern for the Razorbacks here is that they allow way too many passing yards. And if the game here's what I'm predicting, that this game will stay close until Bryce Young has to win it, and then Alabama will pull away immensely.
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument here. Now, to kind of wrap it up, one of the later games, the later slate is not great. Clemson, North Carolina, line set at 6.5, over-under is 43.5. This over-under has been bouncing around a little bit. That we have been seeing this number move. A lot of this is dependent on weather.
North Carolina State,
yes, I apologize.
Yes.
The weather from the hurricane could definitely impact this game. Right now, in the evening, it doesn't look to be as bad. During the day, if this was a 3 o'clock or noon kickoff, they'd be getting a lot of rain and some pretty heavy winds. Right now, it does look like it'll be a little bit maybe spotty. So this is a game that I am waiting to bet on the total. I'm feeling a potential over here. But the line's at 6.5. This game presents some interesting dynamics. Mostly because I don't know how conservative the coaches will be here. Dabo has been a lot more conservative than I anticipated this season. I think part of that is not trusting DJ. I think the Wake Forest game went a long way to potentially trusting DJ because he handled that moment very well, I thought. He made some really great plays at times when they needed him to step up and make a play. I am concerned about NC State's conservatism here because they are a run-heavy team when they have a world-class quarterback in Leary down there, and they kind of got to let him let loose in this because while Clemson's going to get some guys back in their secondary, we saw last week that secondary is suspect. And if you can take advantage of that, that means Clemson can't do what they do best, which is really just get after the quarterback and play free. If they have to drop guys back into coverage like Wake Forest made them do, then you can open the run. So I do wonder about strategy here. I think the total is a little light, but this is a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, this is a chance for both these teams to take control of their division, to take control, even though their conference probably, right? If they knock their opponent out. I think NC State has more at stake here than Clemson does. I think Clemson still has brand awareness, and therefore a loss to NC State would be a quote unquote good loss, right? Something that yeah.
NC State's
Whereas
been improving too.
yeah,
They're a good football team there.
where if NC State loses here, it could be easy for like the media and casual fans to write them off, right? With that said, I am going to piggyback off of what you said. NC State defense is stout. And can Clemson's QB overcome their corners? Not even their DBs and corners. I don't know. Can their wide receivers get enough separation so that they can score? I don't really know. I think Clemson is getting a lot for being at home. I think if this game was played on a neutral site, I don't know. I don't know if I would take NC State, but I would be more apt to be like, maybe it's a field goal game for Clemson instead of a 7, a touchdown favorite. This is another game too where you're going to see, we talked about this last year, we're going to see the who breaks first, right? Is it NC State's stellar defense, or is it Clemson's win at any cost offense when Dabo takes the reins off of his quarterback, right?
Yeah, I hope these coaches come out of the shell a little bit here. I think North Carolina State's going to have to. I think you have to put the ball in your elite quarterback's hands and let him go out there and try to take advantage of a Clemson secondary that is down this year. And yes, they're getting 3 guys back that they didn't have last week, which will certainly help them improve defensively. But this is still a down year in that secondary. That defense is still trying to figure out concepts out, and they're trying to get their communication and chemistry down. You can't just run straight at this wall, because like we saw with the Wake Forest game, what allowed to open up that run game was the fact that Clemson did have to commit more guys to the pass attack. And if your idea is we're just going to run against this defensive line and linebacking core, it's not going to work. So I hope NC State has the smarts to be a little bit more aggressive here. And Dabo which will then force Dabo to be a little bit more aggressive here, and then I think this over could get absolutely pounded. But that is weather permitting, and we'll kind of see. I want to wait till tomorrow to kind of get a feel for a better picture of what the weather's going to be. But right now, I am liking this over because I do think it's a little light.
Yeah. Also, NC State, what were y'all doing last week playing Connecticut? No team should be playing Connecticut. No team.
I feel so bad for Connecticut at this point. Oh, God, they're just down so bad. Anything else catching your eye? Anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, BYU, Utah State is on right now, which BYU should blow them out.
One would hope. Yeah.
Yeah, one would hope, but we'll see what happens. No. There's plenty of good games to watch. Hopefully it's not as bad as last weekend. I'm hoping that these games are very entertaining. I guess we didn't talk about Oregon and Stanford. I will say for that game, anything can happen.
Yep.
So if you're looking at that game, you might want to stay away from it, because whatever you think is going to happen, that's not what's going to.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah. Late game. I mean, Bo Nix is at home. He does perform better at home. We know that. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. We're going to find out a lot about Oregon once again there. A fun one Friday night, Washington UCLA. I think is one to keep an eye on. I don't like the number right now. It's at 2.5. It creates a conundrum. Washington does struggle with mobile quarterbacks. We saw Peyton Thorne when he started to use his legs to extend plays. That's when they were really able to get after the Washington defense. We've seen that from time to time. UCLA comes in with a very good mobile quarterback. We'll see if they can kind of chip away. But Washington's another team that's playing really good football compared to expectations right now. I guess what shouldn't be the most surprising thing. But they're playing good football, and Penix Jr. has been brought back to life.
Penix Jr. is playing very well. I think everyone knows, though. I think, we all know that they're going to hit a wall. We just don't know where that wall is. And we don't know how late in the season the wall is going to be.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh.
DeBoer, their head coach, though, is he's won everywhere he's gone. The teams have
Yeah.
massively improved under his guidance and leadership. So that's what I mean by it's not super surprising that they've been better. They're definitely better than I thought they were going to be. But once again, that defense is susceptible to a mobile quarterback, and this could present a very fun, interesting challenge on Friday night. So that's a game to tune into. I don't have a side on that. I don't like the 2.5 number right now. I'm not betting it, but that could be a fun game. I like Michigan.
Take UCLA.
There we go. I don't hate it. I'm staying away from it. On my card this week, I do have Michigan 10.5. I am laying it there. I've got the under in Navy Air Force 37.5. I'm staying away from my BC team. They are just absolutely murdering me left and right this season.
So I did not mention it. I flipped to the Boston. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let Nate have it.
Absolute disaster.
Yeah. You need to just, I don't know what it is with Boston College, but I want you to just let it go.
That's fair. I've let it go. I'm done. That offense is putrid. It is absolutely terrible. I've given up on that team 100%.
Also, you can't keep doing this to yourself. No. Virginia Tech, Boston College, like you can't keep doing this.
You need to go back to my roots and start taking Syracuse in key spots like I've done through previous years. I don't have a number just yet here. This Texas A&M Mississippi State game is going to be very interesting. This is the one time where I think Texas A&M's Stone Age offense could really have some fun because this Mississippi State, similar to Ole Miss, they play a 3-2-6 defense, and so they are a pass design defense. They can get bullied in the trenches, and Texas A&M's run game could have some fun, but I don't have a pick right in that game. I do like LSU against Auburn. 8.5 is the line. They are on my card. I've also got Troy plus 4.5 on my card, and we're probably going to play the over in North Carolina State at 43.5, but we'll see. We're holding on for that. Going to be a little closer. So you want to make sure you're following Trophy Kids Pod on Instagram and Twitter to get the full card, but that's what I've got right now for bets.
Yeah, and you're talking about a team. We talked about sneaky teams. We can't not mention the Jayhawks and the football that they're playing.
The fact that they're not ranked is a crime against humanity. If that team was in the SEC, they'd be in a top 10 right now. Their record is well-deserving, and their resume is well-deserving of a spot in the top 25. I think they're a top 15 team right now. That is ridiculous that they are not ranked right now.
Yeah, and that game, that was a great game. Like, we didn't talk about it, but, man, it was electric. Yeah, I enjoyed. And I like watching football games like that, especially because, like, of course I love watching Duke and Kansas during basketball season. But to watch a great game during football season, how rare is that?
It was awesome. That was a great game. That was an electric game. Kansas is a lot of fun to watch. I'm not betting them in this spot, though, against Iowa State. But that's gonna be fun to see if they can take the next step and beat Ohio State or Iowa State, not Ohio State. If they beat Iowa State, they better damn well be ranked in the top 20. I don't even want to see 25. They need to be inside the top 20 for sure.
Yeah, that Kansas versus Iowa State game is ISU by 3. No, that is not a game. Yeah, I don't envy either of those teams being in that game.
No, not at all.
No.
All right. Any other thoughts before we wrap this up?
No. Of course. I mean, I guess if you're a glutton for punishment, you can watch that Texas versus West Virginia game.
No, I'm good. I'm gonna pass it.
Yeah, I'm good. I think
I'll probably have it on the laptop. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
That is a game cast game for me for sure.
Fair enough. All righty, that'll do it for us here. And as always, peace.
Peace.